Hey everyone, it's Mo. Thank you for joining us on Easel Live this wonderful Friday. We are going to be showing you one of our newest apps that we created actually exclusively for this Easel Live event, because we here at Unventables, we're all about continuous improvement, and we're always trying to find ways to improve our software, which is Easel, and our products and our materials, our machines. We're always striving to try and do the best possible thing we can for you guys, our customers, and also for everyone else out there who's looking to make new projects. We like to keep you guys constantly inspired and trying new things. And as such, we are always here working on things that we feel need to be improved. So if you're familiar with Easel and some of the apps that we've used previously, you might have remembered the Boxmaker app that we had. And if you ever tried to use the Boxmaker app, it was a good app, except it wasn't great. It had some issues, and there were a couple of things wrong with it that we feel could have been improved. For one, it's hard to make a box when you have two joints that are coming together like that without using dog bones, because you need to account for the bit thickness when you're joining edges together. And so you essentially would have to use the Boxmaker app and then use the dog bone app, which wasn't really ideal. So the new app that we're going to show you includes the dog bones already in the Boxmaker app, so you can skip that step entirely. We have also added a lidded feature to this new box app, because as cool as open boxes are, there's a lot more times where you probably want the things in your box closed up or somehow enclosed. So we went a little crazy here in the last few weeks, making projects using our new app and testing it out before we're going to show it to you guys. So before we get started, I just want to show you some of the projects that we made. This was my project that I made. I actually made a domino set. I made all these little dominoes as well, and I made this box for it since I'm really into games right now. I'm trying a whole bunch of different games and trying them out, game night and having some friends over. So I've never played dominoes. I've only used them to like knock things over. So I'm excited to learn how to play dominoes, and now I've got this great little storage container to keep my dominoes in for when I play my game night. So that was one of the first projects that I made with the new app. Another great application that we've seen for the Boxmaker app is a wine box. Sam at Inventables here made this wine box for her two friends, Matt and Brooke, that are going to be getting married later this year. And the idea is to put a bottle of wine in the box and give it as a wedding present to the newlyweds. And then they can open it up on their anniversary, or they can open it up on their honeymoon, whichever they prefer. So this is kind of a cool keepsake gift to give to somebody as a wedding present. You could do birthday present, anniversary, all kinds of cool things. And this was also made with the Boxmaker app that we're going to show you today. So as you can see, the lidded feature here, it's very cool. I think you guys are going to get excited. And just as like one more small example, I made this fun little Lego minifig box so I can store all my minifigs in there. Obviously, I don't have very many, but I wanted to make a box in the Carvey as a little trial to see how a smaller box will work. So with that in mind, this is going to be the app that we're going over today, and we're going to show you guys some cool techniques so you can get really cool engravings and customize your box to do whatever you want it to do and however you want it to look. So the project that we decided to do today, since we came up with all these box ideas and we're like, what are we going to do that's like fun and people can customize and things like that. So as you may or may not know, I am a big bird person. I really like birds, and I'm a chicken lady, to be honest, but I'm also really interested in the birds in my back house, in my backyard. So we're going to be making birdhouses today, and this is a birdhouse that I made a few days ago with the new app. And you can see, like, this is the sliding lid feature of the birdhouse. And what's kind of cool about this particular birdhouse is that if you were watching our Instagram live story from a few days ago when we were doing our beer and making, which is our sort of company activity that we do every other week, we were doing paper marbling, and I went a little crazy and I marbleized the sides of my birdhouse. So I'm like totally obsessed with my birdhouse, and I think that you guys are going to see how much fun this project is, and also how easy it is to do with your machine and with Easel. So in order to get this kind of project done, there's a few things that I want to show you that are good to have on hand before you even start designing an Easel. One of those things is going to be this adhesive paint mask, and we do sell this on our site. I can show you where that is at the end of the session, but this paint mask is great because you can lay it down on the surface of your material, carve out whatever it is that you want to carve out. And then when you're done, just spray paint it or paint it with whatever kind of paint you have. And then you just peel the paint mask off, and there's no need to do any kind of finishing or sanding off like paint that you missed on the edges and things like that. So this paint mask is an awesome, awesome tool. I'll show you just a quick example here. So this is what the paint mask looked like on the lid. We'll do a little before and after here because those are always fun to see. So this was when Sam was carving the wine box for Matt and Brooke. This is what it looks like with the paint mask on and after it's carved. So you can see how the paint mask stays in place even after you have carved onto it. And that's really helpful because now you can just go in, spray paint it, peel the paint mask off, and then you end up with this finished product. We didn't do anything else to this aside from peel off the paint mask, which is pretty awesome. So that is why the paint mask is one of the greatest little helpful tricks that we use around here when doing engravings onto wood. So just to show you what that looks like, I actually made a second lid for my birdhouse. So I ended up going with purple, but I thought I might want to go with red too. So this paint mask, you can see I've spray painted it, and I'm going to peel this off now, and I'm going to hope that it looks as good as I hope it looks. So you can see when I just peel that off, I get a really nice clean finish, and I don't have to do anything else. I can swap this out and put it on my birdhouse right now if I wanted, but I won't do that because I'm sure you guys want to design your own birdhouses. So, but that just shows you the paint mask and how great it is. Now, the one thing to keep in mind when using the paint mask is you're going to want to use a down cut bit. The reason you want to use a down cut bit instead of an up cut or a straight flute is because the down cut bit is specifically designed to drill into the wood and push the bits that are carved back down into the surface. Why is that important? Well, if you'll remember from any of your previous carves that you may have done, if you use something like an upcut or a straight flute, you'll often see the chips fly up and out away from the surface of the wood or material that you're carving. And sometimes you'll end up with like a fringe on the surface where you've carved. So what a down cut bit does is instead of pulling the chips up and out and creating that fringe along the edge of the curve or the edge of the carve, the down cut bit will carve down, the flute spin downwards and push the material back down into itself, so that you don't end up with that fringe along the surface of the wood. The reason that's really important to do when you're using the adhesive paint mask is to make sure that that adhesive paint mask sticks to the surface and isn't pulled up and away. And that's not gonna be very beneficial when you're trying to spray paint it or do like a really clean finish when you're done. So these are the 3 down cut bits that we sell. We've got them in an 1/8 inch, a 16th inch, and a 32nd inch. So you can buy these on our website. Again, I'll show you where you can locate those after we're done here. So remember, down cut bits, adhesive paint mask, anything you ever want to engrave will be so much easier and you'll be able to finish those off really cleanly. So there's just one last thing that we have to do before we get started. And this is really important for the Boxmaker app because the Boxmaker app, unlike some of our other apps, takes into account your material thickness and your bit size before you use the app. So it's important when you use the Boxmaker app that you have your material setting already in place and you have your bit already selected before you start using the app. So for this, for the birdhouse we're gonna do today, I'm gonna use this Baltic birch plywood that we sell in our store. As you can see, it's a giant piece of wood. This is the, I think it's the 18 by 24 that we have, and it's a 1/4 inch thick, but just to make sure, since the Box app does require the material thickness to be exact, I'm going to use my handy dandy set of calipers here to just measure this really quickly to make sure that everything I'm doing in Easel is going to be right and allow me to get a really good fit. So let me turn my calipers on here, bear with me a second. All right. So I'm going to measure this in a few different spots just to make sure. All right, looks like I'm getting 0.24, 0.225, and one more for good measure, and 0.225. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to just average that out and do like 0.23 since I've got things that are a little bit above and below that value. And I'll use that as my material thickness in Easel. Now, one thing to keep in mind is all these boxes They probably will require a little bit of glue to keep them just well contained. You can certainly still use the box without it being glued, but we have found that gluing them just a little bit does help keep them in their form. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Every box that I showed you here does have a little bit of glue. So keep in mind, it's not perfect, but it goes a long way in terms of, helping you make a box really quickly and easily that can still be used and finished really nicely. So let me go ahead and let's get into Easel here. And let's see how we can start making our box. All right, so there's one other thing I wanted to show you guys before we get started. And when we were thinking about these birdhouses, we had to figure out what kind of birds we wanted to build the birdhouse for. So I found this awesome site called the Illinois Raptor Center, and they have this awesome guide to common Illinois birds that are in our area. And I wanted to make sure that I had a birdhouse that allowed me to use, give a home to birds that live near me. So I went to the backyard bird section. I know I've seen some chickadees around here. Blue jays are cool, but they are a little aggressive to have around. Robins are plentiful where I live as well. And I've also seen quite a few, there's a cardinal that hangs out near my house too. And sparrows were the other bird that I wanted. So then I found this website called birdsforever.com, and they have this awesome chart with all these different birdhouse dimensions. And I went through here and tried to figure out, okay, so here are my chickadees, and here are my house sparrows. And what was convenient about this is that house sparrows and chickadees tend to have the same parameters for the kind of house they wanted. So you can see here, it gives me the floor size, which is 4x4. It also gives me the box height, which is supposed to be anywhere between 8 inches and 12 inches. And then this entrance off the floor, which is going to be the height in which we need to place the hole. It looks like that's got to be anywhere between about 6 to 7 inches there. And then it also tells me the hole diameter as well. So this site, again, birdsforever.com/box dimensions or box dim, will give you the parameters that you need for when you're making your box. So now I can go into Easel and start designing my box. So let's back up and let's remember that I need to set all of these parameters over here before I start opening the app. So my material size is going to be the 18 by 24 inches. And material thickness, again, since I measured it, I'm going to use 0.33 as my thickness, as sort of an average for the measurements that I found on my board. I'm also going to go over here, and for the bit, you'll notice that we do not have the downcut bit in our bit library here at Inventables. So we are always looking to add new bits to this library. It does take some time because we have to do a lot of testing. But for now, I'm going to be okay using the same parameters as the upcut bit, since the two bits do behave very similarly. So I'm going to go ahead and select this bit, the 1/8 inch upcut bit, for my bit choice. And the birch plywood, I'm still good there since that is the material that I'm going to be using. So now, without further ado, we can actually start designing our birdhouse. So I'm going to go into the app section here, and you'll see we've added our new box maker app here, and it's the one that has the icon of the box. You'll see this is the classic box maker. This is the old app that we used to have, which you can certainly still use. If you want to make a box that has a lid on it though, please make sure you use this one. So you'll see I'm presented with a few different options here in terms of width, height, and depth. So it's important when you are making your box to kind of keep in mind what these things mean. Generally speaking, the width is going to be moving, is the direction in the x-axis. The height is the direction in the y-axis, and the depth is the dimension in the z-axis. So just to show you what I mean by that, let's take a look at my little Domino's box here. So this is the way that I carved the box, and this is going to be my width. This dimension is going to be my height, and then this is going to be my depth. So you can see how you can see that there's all these different panels here. And so it's important when you're looking at your box before you import it to kind of think like, okay, is that really what I want that to look like? And a lot of times you'll find you can just sort of play around a little bit with the dimensions to end up with a box that you want to make. The other thing to keep in mind here that's really important is you'll remember for my birdhouse, I want to make sure that the floor is 4 inches by 4 inches. So when you are importing or when you are inputting the dimensions for your box into Easel, the dimension that it states for width, height, and depth are all the inside diameter of those cuts. So again, the material thickness is what comes into play for these different tabs on the box pieces themselves. So if I want it to be 4 inches, it's only going to do 4 inches between these tabs. And then the tabs need to be accounted for as well. So what I actually need to do whenever I'm calculating a specific dimension like this, I need to do the dimension that I want, so 4 inches, plus the depth of my material times 2 to account for the tabs on either side. So for this particular material, my box, my material thickness is about 1/4 inch, and I want it to have 4 inches. So I'm actually going to need to do 4.5 inches for the total size that I input into Easel. So I'll show you what I mean when I say that. We'll go back into Easel here, and I'll show you the Boxmaker app. So again, when I was talking about width and height, since my wood is 1/4 inch thick, and I want the overall width of my box, which is in this case the dimension in the x-axis, I'm going to go ahead according to my chart here. The box height has to be between 8 inches and 12 inches. So I'm going to go ahead. I want my overall height to be 9 inches, which means that for this, I'm actually going to have to enter in 9.5 inches to account for the tabs that will be going on the edges of the panel here. So for the height, I want to make this 4.5 inches. And for the depth, I also want to make this 4.5 inches. So this will make the bottom and top pieces, which was what correlated to the floor size, the 4x4, is going to be the 4 inches, and then it accounts for the tabs on either side as well. And I've got my overall box height is going to be 9 inches, with the 1/2 inch accounting for the tabs as well. So I'll go ahead, I'll add my top, and you can see the Boxmaker has now done 2 things. It has added a strip here on these 2 pieces to allow the lid to slide in. And it has built me a lid as well, which is going to be where we design the shape or the hole and everything for the box. So I'm going to go ahead and import these designs. You'll also notice here, if you're a Carvey user, this particular birdhouse, birdhouses unfortunately do have to be pretty large. You're probably going to have a hard time making a birdhouse on a Carvey. It will probably require you to import something and then copy and paste it into multiple Easel projects, which I understand is a little inconvenient, but it is sort of important to do that to make sure that you can fit the whole thing in one place. So I'm just going to do a little bit of rearranging here, make sure that I have everything on my work piece. I also am going to rotate my lid so that I can easily design it when we get to that part. So I'm going to go over here to the shape panel. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. That should give you a better sense. You can see how this piece mirrors the piece that I've designed previously. And to save some material, I'm going to go ahead and rotate this 90 degrees as well, just so it makes it a little bit easier when I'm carving to have everything a little more compact. Right, I'll move these pieces over as well. All right, so that's it. Made my birdhouse. Well, everything sort of, except for the door on my birdhouse. So let's go back to this nesting site. And you can see that I need the entrance off the floor to be somewhere between 6 to 7 inches, and it needs to be about 1 1/4 to a little bit more than that in terms of an entrance hole. So I think I'm going to go with, for this one, I think I'm going to go with an entrance of about 1.5 inches so that the birds can get in there all right. So let me go back over here to Easel, and I'm going to import a circle. And this circle, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to set it to an outside cut. And I'm gonna go over here and set this to the 1.5 by 1.5. Now you can see, since I made this an outside cut, it's going to, the true size of the hole is going to be 1.5. If I set this, on the other hand, to an inside cut, you can see that the actual diameter of my hole is going to be smaller than that 1/2 inch, that 1.5 inches, because the bit is going to occupy part of my carve. So it's important whenever you're doing these kinds of things to make sure everything is set to an outside path. So how do I make sure that this is in an exact space that I want it to be when I am placing the hole on the birdhouse? Well, one little trick that I like to use is I like to use the positioning tools here in the shape menu. So what I'm gonna do as a little cheat for now, I'm gonna set my Y dimension, or my Y position for the bottom left corner of my lid to 0. I'm then going to take my circle shape. I'm just gonna place it in here, sort of for right now, and align these two pieces to make sure that my circle is centered in the lid. I'm also gonna make sure that I send this all the way to the back so it's a through cut. And then I'm going to set the bottom of my entrance hole. You can see that this also gives me a Y dimension of about 6.5. So if I go back to this, you can see that I do need my entrance above the floor to be somewhere between 6 inches to 7 inches. So 6.5 would actually be a really good solution for that. So just to make it a little more exact, I'm gonna type in here 6.5. And you can see that it has now moved my circle entrance to 6.5 up on the lid. Now I can grab both these pieces and reposition them to make sure that they fit fully on my material, and then we're good to go. So the next thing that I can do, now that I have this all done, is I'm gonna add a little customization to my birdhouse. Because, you know, as much as the birds would probably live here anyways, I wanna give them a little bit something more interesting to live in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import a shape of a bird and place that on the birdhouse. So I'm gonna go to Import, Image Trace, and then I'm gonna search the web for a bird vector to put onto the house. You can see this pulls up a couple different options for me. I can go ahead and choose from. Previously when I did this, I used this bird vector here. So I'm gonna import this. And one thing I always like to do when I'm importing from the web, I like to set the smoothing to 1, just to make sure that I get all my little pointy edges are smoothed out nicely. And I'm gonna go ahead and import. So you can see it put all my shapes sort of over here. So I'll just move them over here for right now. And I think I'm going to I'll pick this one. I'll put this guy right over here. So now I've got my bird placed on my birdhouse. And I also want to add some text because I think text is fun. So one thing I wanted to put on mine was home tweet home, because, you know, who doesn't love a good pun? So I'll just work this text here a little bit and type in a couple different phrases, mix it up with some font variety, and then I'll make sure to center all these things again. You can see that there's a lot of different things you can do with customizing these birdhouses. There's really no limit to what you can put on the birdhouse. The only thing to keep in mind is that it's hard to engrave the sides of the birdhouse, because you can see that we need to be able to engrave the slots for the lid to slide in. So it's possible to design the top and the bottom of the birdhouse. You can also design the back of the birdhouse or the front of the birdhouse. You can also design the sides if you'd like, but in order to do that, you're going to have to cut this shape out first and then flip it over and then engrave onto the other side of this material here. So that's pretty much it. The one last thing I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna delete these birds over here since I don't need them. And I'm also just gonna go through, you'll notice when I made my circle that this added tabs into my shape. So it is important to have tabs added to all of your shapes that you're going to cut out. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hit Shift and click all of the shapes that I have on my document. And I'm going to go ahead in the cut menu. You can see that I now have the use tabs feature. So I'm going to use tabs, and I'm going to use these default settings. You can also go in if you wanted to and change up these settings a little bit if you don't want the tabs to be as long or as tall. So that's possible to do as well. And you can see now that each piece that I selected now has tabs added to it. Tabs are these little yellow lines that you can see that show up. The one thing I would suggest doing is perhaps clicking and dragging these tabs so they're in a more convenient place for sanding when you're all finished and everything is carved out. So for instance, if you end up with a tab that's in a weird kind of funky corner like this, that's going to be really hard to finish when you're all set with your design. So go ahead and move it. I like moving mine to the outside part of the tabs because I think that was just a little bit easier in terms of finishing when I was all set. So I'm only going to show you that on this particular panel, but make sure you go into these other panels as well and just double check your tabs and move them around accordingly if necessary. So the only last thing to do that I'm just going to show you guys a little tip and trick here is with this engraving. So remember with our engravings that we're doing, we're going to end up painting the surface anyways. So the depth of my engraving is not exactly vital to the overall design of my project. So one thing that we like to do to save a little bit of time with our engraving is we like to go up here to our cut settings and double check our depth per pass. In this case, it looks like Easel is recommending me to cut at 0.028 inches per pass, meaning every time the bit makes a movement across the design, it's going to carve down 0.028 inches deep. So since all I need to do all I need to do with my paint mask, all I need to do is just break the surface of the paint mask. I don't have to carve down halfway. I don't have to carve down a ½ inch or ¼ inch or anything like that. Since I'm going to be painting it, all I really need to do is just carve down just that first surface of the paint mask. So you can see on this lid that we had done for Matt and Brooke's wine box, we just broke the surface of the paint mask so that we could spray paint into there. So the best way to save time when you are doing anything that involves the paint mask or any kind of an engraving, if it's not important to have a specific depth, go ahead and set the depth of these engravings to the same thickness or the same depth as your depth per pass. That way the bit only has to go around and make a cut on these once. So you can see right now that this is set to 0.1398. And as a result, if I zoom in over here to this panel and I hit simulate, you can see, if I hide my material, that the machine is going to be making like 4 passes to engrave some of these, or a lot to engrave a bird. And that's really just time wasted that I don't need to spend, since all I want to do is just break the surface of that paint mask. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to 0.028. And you can see, looks like I saved about 15 minutes on my time just by making that really quick, simple change. And now it's only going to take 1 pass of the bit to carve this out for my birdhouse. So that is everything that we need to know in order to make our birdhouse. If you feel like getting really fancy and making a little slot for your birds to rest their feet on, you can do that as well. I just used this, and I'm just going to go ahead and set this again to an outside cut. And I'm just going to make it about 1/4 inch wide. And I'll go make it about 2½ inches tall. So I've got that. I'll make sure that that carves all the way through as well. And the other thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a little slot here for the birds to rest their feet on. So in order to do that, since I made the width of this, you can see according to the shape panel, the width of this again is 1/4 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to 1/4 inch width as well, so it fits in there. And the height is going to correspond with my material thickness, and that is going to be the 0.233. So there's my little hole is going to be here, but it's not quite done because I do want to add a dog bone to this. So I'll go in here, I'll find my dog bone generator, and I'll go ahead and I'll set it to the outside like that. So I'll import that shape instead. He's way down here. Let me fix that real quick. Put tabs on it for me, but I don't need tabs. So instead of this shape, I'm going to use this shape. I'm gonna make it a fill, and I'm gonna go down about 1/16 of an inch. It doesn't have to be very deep, and again, I'll probably still wanna use glue on that anyways. I'll come back here, click and drag to select multiple shapes, and I'll just make sure everything is nicely aligned. And there I have it. There's my birdhouse, and now I'm ready to carve it out. The one last thing to keep in mind when you are finishing your birdhouse is you'll probably want a way to finish it to make sure that it's all nice and safe for the birds. So one thing I would recommend doing, it turns out that linseed oil is good for coating your birdhouse with because it's non-toxic and it's safe for the birds. However, I've heard it's really tricky to work with linseed oil, so that may be an option for you if you're really passionate about the bird safety or the bird, chewing the house to pieces for some reason. If not, you can always just use like a polyurethane to coat the birdhouse and keep it protected from water damage and everything like that. Again, one last thing to keep in mind is that this project is a little bit larger, one of our larger projects that we've shared so far in Easel Live. So if you are using a Carvey, you probably will need to copy the project a few times and carve out specific parts in multiple phases, but hopefully you'll still be able to do that and still be able to make a birdhouse. Or again, you can always make a smaller project using the Boxmaker app as well. So if you are feeling really super proud of the project that you've made, as I am today, you can feel free to share and publish your project on our website. So I'll just show you how to do that really quickly if you've never done that before. You can go up here to File. The first way you can share is just by clicking Share, and by sharing with a link. I can now copy and paste this link, and anyone who has this link has access to look at my file. So I'll go ahead and save that for now. I can also go ahead and publish my work if I want to. And let's just call this one Easel Live Birdhouse. And I'll just write a short description. And once I have an image, I can upload an image here. Oh, it looks like it wants me to upload an image now. So let me just, for now, I will, I don't have one. But when I do, I can just click Publish to Inventables, and that will publish it to our website. And as a quick example of what that would end up looking like, you can then go up to your account and click on My Projects to finish editing the file. So this is the dominoes set that I had made. You can see that I made a project file for it, included some of my photos that shows the process and the final objects as well. And then I added in the bill of materials so that people can easily replicate the project that I made. And they can also follow these instructions that I added so that they can make the project themselves. So that's a really great way to share your projects if you're really proud of what you made or want to help somebody else replicate your design. So that's something to keep in mind if you ever come up with something new or want to share your birdhouse with us. We'd love to see different designs that you guys have made with the new app. Again, we're really excited about our new Box app, so please feel free, share your projects with us in the projects section on the website. You can also share them in the forum if you'd like as well. So that's everything we have for today. I hope you guys have fun with our new app. Hope to see lots of pictures of birdhouses and the birds that are making friends with your backyard now. So please feel free, if you have any other questions, you can go ahead and reach us on our chat. And if you do decide that you want to share a project with us on social media, you can certainly do that as well. Make sure to tag us #Inventables, and we'll be able to see it that way and hopefully share it in the newsletter as well. We do that every week. We have a section in our newsletter where we share people who have tagged us on Instagram. We share those files as those projects in our newsletter. So go play some games, go make homes for your birdhouses, make lots of gifts for your friends. Again, my name is Mo, and I'm from Inventables. Thank you everyone for reaching out to us today and joining us here on Easel Live. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to reach us at help@inventables.com. And again, we'll be on chat for a few more minutes if you want to go ahead and ask any further questions. If not, please tag us on social media with your projects, and hope to see you making lots of fun box projects. Thanks again.